Fellas, AC here. Welcome to another review. Today I want to talk about a Clive Christian. Clive Christian is a UK-based brand, and I have mentioned Clive Christian number one before. It's been in my collection for more than 3 or 4 years in various lists, but this is the first time I'm going to review a Clive Christian full review. And this Clive Christian has been impressing me a lot. It's Clive Christian X, released 2001, and the parfumer is Geyser Schoen of Eccentric Molecules. And this fragrance is very impressive, very artistic. Excuse me, very artistic, and it's just one of those fragrances that really is quite a fragrance. But before that, a little bit about Clive Christian. Clive Christian is a UK-based brand, not too long ago, formed 1999. They basically acquired a long-standing fragrance house, which was called Crown Perfumes, I believe, and they were provided the Royal Charter in 1876 by Queen Victoria, and that was taken over by Clive Christian, the self-made, I think he's a fashion designer or a fragrance enthusiast or some sort of a designer. And he's self-taught. He's not someone who has come from a family of sort of designers. That's what I understand. I didn't do much research, but very interesting fact is that he's self-taught and is quite a successful person, very charismatic, and that's how he came to own Clive Christian fragrances. And the most famous creation from Clive Christian is 1876, which is a classic Chypre. And this fragrance here, I've got a decant of Clive Christian X. I've had this decant for about 4 years, maybe longer even, and I have a 10 ml decant. I think I paid about £50 for this, so they're not cheap. And I've got it dry down here, and yeah, I may spray, but I sprayed about 1 hour ago. It's a very long fragrance. It develops very slowly, and if you want, I can spray a tiny bit on my wrist just to remind myself of the opening. I know this fragrance pretty well, and it's a very sort of ethereal, airy kind of a fragrance. So it starts off very, very different than what you would expect a very expensive fragrance to smell like. It smells designery. And it takes about 15-20 minutes to actually bring all the notes to the fore. That's why I was not spraying, because it's very ethereal, very airy, full of isoe super, and full of pepper and fruits. So it smells like a designer. It has a very juicy pineapple, lots and lots of isoe super, very fizzy, and pink pepper. That's what you're getting. Very peppery sort of starting. But give it 15 minutes, give it 20 minutes. Just let it settle on your skin and start playing, cooking on your skin. So what you get is a sort of a fougere-like smell. And this stage is when it reminds me of another very expensive fragrance, Roja's Reckless. It doesn't have any lavender, but this has a lot of bergamot, very fizzy, like a soda smell, with pineapple. And along with pineapple, the most interesting note to my nose is rhubarb. That rhubarb is very fascinating, that note, and brings in the vegetal green smell with that soda fizzy smell with the juicy pineapple, pepper, and oak moss. That's what I get. It almost smells like a fougere with a very fruity, sort of effervescent and sour smell because of isoe super, quite sour. And that's how it starts, very unsettled, and then brings in about half an hour to 1 hour, it brings in all the other aspects which make it amazing. It becomes very sour, as if you squeezed in lemon into it, and then brings in cardamom. The main note becomes rhubarb, cardamom. Supporting notes, pineapple, pink pepper, oak moss. That's how it starts. So two big notes are rhubarb, cardamom. And supporting those two big notes is another floral, which is iris. Iris gives the fragrance a radiance. Beautiful, radiant, green, and fizzy smell. And along with that, Iris, the supporting note is of jasmine. Jasmine brings in the mystique, the sort of um, you know, something which is about to happen, kind of an anticipation. And that happens with cinnamon. In about 2 hours' time, you get fantastic note of cinnamon and amber. Amber is labdanum. So labdanum and cinnamon make this fragrance oriental, almost gourmand oriental, on a top of a fougere. Initially, I used to think this is a chypre, like 1876. But more I sit and think about it, it has this lemony, fizzy smell which drag it to the region of an oriental fougere. And I quite like that. I'm very comfortable with that position. I used to think this is a chypre, but to my nose, it's an oriental fougere. And all those notes I mentioned, they are still there. It's a very long fragrance. And principal role is played by rhubarb, cardamom, florals in the middle, which is iris, jasmine, and then in the base you have oak moss, cinnamon, and styrax and labdanum. And styrax becomes more prominent later on, and that is the supporting note to vetiver, which again becomes very prominent in very late dry down. So important. Vetiver is so important in the very late dry down, almost like a solid floor. Vetiver becomes one of the most prominent notes, almost like a solid floor. And it's very charismatic. This is a very well made charismatic fragrance. So upsides and downsides. This is a fragrance people say, what would be a quintessentially British fragrance? This is the British House. It has created a fragrance which I would associate with a proper British gentry, landed gentry, aristocrat. If I was to give signature scent to Sherlock Holmes, I would actually say this is his signature scent. The character played by Benedict Cumberbatch. If I was to actually dress him for his role, I would say Clive Christian X would be his signature scent for myriad roles he plays. That's how I see this. This is quintessentially British. That's how in my head I conceive this fragrance. It has got so many facets which shouldn't work together, and they do. The pepper, the pineapple, the isoe super, the rhubarb, on top of those delicate florals, on top of the warm amber, cinnamon, and oak moss. It's a very complex sort of a bouquet, if you like, and it still works. The palette is so huge, and it works beautifully, and it's still ethereal, airy, not something that's like an homage. The other homage I thought about was Memoir Man, which has got the sweet, sour, green, smoky elements. This is not smoky. This is airy and woody. But I thought about Memoir Man. I also thought about, because of that cardamom, the waxy, sour cardamom, I thought of Epic Man by Amouage. This doesn't have that kind of, but I did think about it in terms of complexity and range. That's the second upside. Enormous range. The notes that I have mentioned, you will smell all of them at different points in time. And the third one is luxurious. Fragrance smells ethereal, airy, but extremely luxurious and very complex. If you want to enjoy complex perfumery, this is a very good one. Excuse me. The other ones that I can think of are maybe Roger's Oligarch, maybe Roger's Diaghilev. But Diaghilev is not in the same league. It's a few notches above. But it has those notes that keep coming out, popping in, popping out. That's sort of a shadow play, if you like. Is what you get here. Notes keep coming in and out, but they never fade away. And still manages to smell like a designer. So it's a complex fragrance, luxurious fragrance, one that I would associate it with British landed gentry, aristocratic is the impression I get. So the downsides, the price point. Every Clive Christian I've sampled has one big disadvantage. They're very pricey. And when you smell this, you can't equate it to £350 for 100 ml. This is what I would pay is 150, maybe 200 to push. I wouldn't pay 350 for 100 ml. You could probably get this in a discounter for about 200, 250. but still it's a real big ask. Very steep price is what I think is the biggest downside. The second downside is, in spite of all the range, all the notes I mentioned, it still manages to smell like a designer. It doesn't smell like a niche. It doesn't. It doesn't cross my mind that this is a niche fragrance. If I did a blind test, I'll probably say this is a Costume National, or I don't know, something more complex but not niche. It doesn't smell niche. It smells designery. Okay, so um, value for money, as I've covered, low. Seasons to wear this. I would wear this spring, autumn. Those are two great seasons. I'd also like to wear this in winter. This is dead of winter, and I've been wearing it, and it performs beautifully. It smells beautiful. Nothing is subdued. High quality stuff. So I can wear this 3 seasons in a year without even batting an eyelid. No problems at all. Occasions, wherever I want to establish myself, center of attention. I want to grab all the attention. I want to smell expensive. I want to, this projects a lot. I want to lay down my sort of personality on others. I want to impose myself. It's a statement maker to an extent, not a huge one, but still a statement maker. People will guess that you're wearing something expensive and creative. It has that thingy, it pushes itself, it announces itself, and it announces itself in a way that people will perceive you to be wearing something expensive, for sure. For sure. Age groups 35 plus, quite easily. Settings, professional settings. This is a professional scent. So ideal for people who have positions of authority, lawyers, private detectives, just like Sherlock, professional, white collar professionals who actually have good, good presence about themselves. Senior people. You could. Can I wear this to a pub? I probably wouldn't bother. I've got many options for pubs, parties, clubbing, pubs, first date, nah. Professional, or where I want to, sort of make my presence felt, whatever that might be. Salesman, brilliant fragrance for salesmen. When you're sitting in an important sort of a decision meeting, that sort of thing, imposing your personality, projecting your personality, I should say. When you want to project yourself, that's when you wear this. Age groups I've covered, seasons I've covered. How many marks will I give it? Value for money I've covered. See, the thing is, this fragrance was released in 2001. In 2001, probably this would have been a 9 out of 10. Time has gone past. Many things have come. Many different fragrances have come. In fact, I will show you a fantastic, inexpensive clone of this very shortly. So, bearing in mind this is £350 fragrance, maybe £300 fragrance, it still is very, very good. In terms of quality, it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. You may get a compliment. I forgot to touch on the compliment factor. It smells expensive, well made, complex, and interesting. So you will get a compliment in a professional setting or any other setting which suits your personality. So yeah, compliment factor is huge. So bearing in mind all those facets, I would give it an 8 out of 10. I think 8 out of 10 is a fair one, bearing in mind the cost. So hoping you really enjoyed this review, and if you did, do give it a like. Take care.